This video is on the top 5 jobs in the Marine Corps. They're all my opinion. It's not like set in stone facts. These are the top 5 jobs, most paid, nothing like that. These are my opinion on the top 5 jobs in the Marine Corps, jobs I would recommend to anybody out there trying to come into the Marine Corps. And I have a special reason for all 5 of these jobs, but you're gonna have to watch all the way until the end of the video to find out. Sorry for interrupting the video, guys, but it's time for our Instagram shout out. I want to give a big shout out to Roxana. Thank you so much, Roxana, for supporting me and my channel. It really means a lot to me. But make sure you go follow me to get a shout out. So make sure you go follow me at Terrell_the_great to get your chance to be shouted out in the next video. But let's get back to watching. All right, guys, so I've comprised this list of these top 5 jobs. They're not in any order. They're just as is. I'm going to tell you what they are and give you a brief description of them. So hopefully, you can find one out of these 5. If not, there's so many more jobs out there in the Marine Corps that are going to provide the same things that these jobs are going to provide. Like I said, you got to watch all the way until the end to find out what is so special about these jobs, right? So number 1, right, I would say be a Marine Logistics Mobility Chief, which is a 0491. So what do they do? So the Logistics Mobility Chief plans, coordinates, supervises, and conducts logistical operations. He or she is also responsible for embarkation, supporting operations in the Marine Corps, training, and unit level logistics. A logistics/mobility chief also coordinates all combat logistics functions by developing and sustaining all Marine combat forces and their attached units, tracking inventory, managing supply chain, and transporting supplies. So basically all that little fancy stuff, all that's saying is you're going to be in charge of pretty much distributing everything in the Marine Corps, right? You're going to be in charge of making sure this goes there, this goes there, this goes there, and all that. You're going to coordinate all this stuff for the Marine Corps, and that's a very important job because without that, we can't even do our job in the infantry. If we don't have MREs, if we don't have ammo, if we don't have all this stuff, then we can't even do our job, and that's all controlled by a logistics chief, or that's all done and dealt with by logistical people. So we can't do our job if we don't have the help of logistics. All right, so number 2 I would say would be a Marine Counterintelligence / Human Intelligence, which is a 0211. And this is it's not only part of the top 5, this is probably one of the most wanted jobs in the Marine Corps, would be counter intel. So what do they actually do in counter intel? These are a unique group of servicemen who work closely with all intelligence assets in the forces. A counterintelligence specialist is tasked to engage in counterintelligence that can be used to identify and de-escalate threats from hostile combatants and other intelligence organizations. This job is hands down probably one of the most important in the Marine Corps. Your job is to find out everything you can about the enemy. That's awesome. You're literally finding America's threats, and you're like deciphering everything they have, and you're sending all that information that you gain, and you're giving it to your brothers and sisters in the Marine Corps to be able to properly train and properly know how to combat and all that stuff with the enemy. You're literally giving us all the things we need to go fight the enemy, and that job by itself, that's why I think it's one of the most important jobs in the Marine Corps, and definitely it's probably one of the coolest jobs in the Marine Corps. You're literally examining everything you can, you're finding everything you can about our enemies, and you're helping us infantry people, us just Marines in general, know what we're facing, and that's just an awesome job, hands down. So the 3rd top job in the Marines, I believe, is a Avionics Maintenance Chief, which is a 6391. Their job is to basically oversee the entire aviation division. They supervise and repair and maintenance of aircraft avionics systems, components, and equipment. That's what they basically do. So you're just going to oversee all the mechanics, and not just being a chief in aviation, but just aviation in general is a great job field to go into. I'm telling you, sure, you might put in a lot of hours. It's going to be very nitpicky and technical, but I promise you it's going to pay off. And that's also a pretty cool job. You're working on Hueys, you're working on Black Hawks, you're working on all this stuff, and you're responsible for making sure it's all good and running to send up in the air, and you could potentially, that aircraft that you worked on could potentially save lives, and that's a very, very, very cool job. The 4th job on my list of top jobs in the Marine Corps would be a basic engineer, construction, facilities, and equipment, like a manager or personnel, and that MOS is a 1300. I've never said a MOS that's has zeros at the end. but it's 1300. Their job is responsible for making sure all systems, equipment, and structures and building facilities used by the Marine Corps are in mint condition and ready for possible combat. These engineers also make modifications and new designs to, you know, structures on bases and other stuff, or I might come up with a new way to do something that makes it more efficient, you know, like AC units, stuff like that. And that's just cool, like especially if you're like a hands-on person, you love using your hands, you love building, you love all that. This is a great field to go into. I promise, it's very good. And the last out of my top 5 jobs in the Marine Corps would be supply chain and material management, which is a 3043. Their job is to they're basically the management application of automated and manual inventory control actions. These personnel must be able to plan, design, execute, monitor, and control supply chain activities to synchronize supply with demand and leverage worldwide logistics. They also measure performance and facilitate accountability in everyday inventory activities. Additionally, these specialists prepare, maintain, and handle all necessary supporting documentation. They also advise and make recommendations to supply chain officer in all matters. So basically what you do is you are like the warehouse of the Marine Corps. You're going to, everything that people need, you're going to be in charge of taking inventory of it, make sure it's going, you know, to the right places, so then logistics can take that and send it to whoever it needs to be sent to. But basically you're the warehouse of the Marine Corps, and like I said, that is another big job because we can't do anything without materials. So guess what? The people like MREs, like for infantrymen, we need MREs. Guess where we get MREs from? Supply. And then guess who sends us the MREs? Logistics. So you see how it all kind of intertwines, and that's why these jobs, I believe, should be on this top 5 list. But I'm going to tell you this little secret of why these are probably the top 5 kind of job fields or jobs in the Marine Corps. You ready for this? This might shock you, but these all can be transferred outside of the Marine Corps. Yes, all of these jobs can be transferred outside the Marine Corps. Each one of these jobs can set you up for a successful career outside of the Marine Corps. Logistics, you're working with FedEx, you're working with Amazon, same with supply. You're talking about FedEx, Amazon, like Coca-Cola, all these big, you know, distribution, you know, companies, logistics and supply, you're set. You come in with a military background of doing that, they're gonna be like, heck yeah, I know you've been in the military, you're especially in the Marine Corps, oh, I know you're a good person. Yeah, definitely, we'll need you on this team. Counterintelligence and stuff, you're talking about CIA, you're talking about working, you know, trying to figure out stuff for the, not just only for the military, but like for the United States. That's one of probably the most highest paying jobs you like in the world probably. Avionics, you're talking about working on planes. That is going to set you up. You come into, you know, FedEx or somewhere and saying like, hey, I worked on planes in the military and Marine Corps for like 6-8 years. I'm trying to find a job. Do y'all have any openings? Like, heck yeah, dude, you've been working on military, you know, planes. Heck yeah, you can come working on planes, stuff like that. And the engineering construction, you're gonna get hired by civilian contractors. You've had military experience in building all this stuff and construction. You're definitely gonna easily find a job. And another big thing about all 5 of these jobs, you know, they make an average, all of them average above $50,000 a year. That's just the average. It's like bare minimum. You're all, if you get out and go do any one of these jobs, you're gonna be making at least $50,000 a year. And that's why I believe these are the top 5 jobs in the Marine Corps. Hopefully, guys, this kind of opened up your view in the Marine Corps. I know a lot of y'all have been asking, what are the best jobs in the Marine Corps? What jobs are there other than infantry? And these are only 5. These are only 5 out of like 300, I think, something jobs in the Marine Corps. So hopefully this opens your eyes to the opportunities that you can get in the Marine Corps. And this is why I kind of made this video to show you that maybe pick a job that you can definitely transfer out into the civilian world. Guys, make sure you leave the video a like, leave some comments down below. Let me know what y'all want to see next. Let me know out of these 5 jobs, do you see one that interests you, or maybe shoot me a job to do a video on that you know you want to know more about, guys. But as always, guys, thanks for watching.